Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm from Jenny Card Designs. Thanks so much for stopping by today. My YouTube channel contains content that is intended to share paper crafting tutorials and inspiration with all of you. I hope that you enjoy. Okay, so today's video is going to be a little bit different than my usual. I'm going to create an entire series of cards using this stamp set, and this is by Gina K Designs. It's called A Time to Celebrate. I just want the greetings from this stamp set. And then I'm also going to use, I've got a bunch of supplies here already loaded up, ready to mass produce. I've got pre-cut, scored, and folded A2 card bases. I've got a bunch of white cardstock for die cutting and a bunch of black cardstock for matting and die cutting as well. All right, and then I have some acrylic blocks. I might not need them. We'll see how things go. And I've got Gina K Designs Master Layouts die set 3. I'm just going to be using the stitch circle die along with its layer. And then I have this paper pack that I picked up from the dollar store. And it's a really fun pack full of colorful birthday themed pattern papers. And we're going to use this whole pattern paper pack to make a set of note cards. So these are all going to be birthday themed cards. We'll end up with 24 cards. So let's get into this project. Okay, so the first step to this project is to prep all of the cardstock, which I've done already. I've already cut my card bases and I have my cardstock for my sentiment. Now I just want to start separating this paper pack. I'm just going to run through and pull off all the sheets, making sure that I don't get any of that glue that holds the paper pack together. And I'm just going to tear them all out, and then we're going to start to cut these up. I also want to point out that if you don't have 6x6 cardstock, but you have 12x12, then you can cut up your 12x12 cardstock into squared panels just like this. So for each 12x12 sheet, you'll get 4 quarters, which to create a paper pack the same size as this to get 24 cards, you'll need 6 sheets of 12x12 cardstock. So you can go ahead and get those cut up, and then you'll be in the same position as I am right now with 24 sheets of cardstock and 4 patterns of each. Okay, that's just a quick tip in case you don't have any 6x6 cardstock. Okay, let's move into cutting these up. Now, first thing you want to pay attention to is orientation. Now, you want to decide whether you want landscape or portrait style. So if you're going to cut up your cardstock, just pay attention to that. If you want your cardstock and your pattern to be cohesive and flow the right way, then just pay attention when you're cutting it up. Now I'm going to take one of my card bases and I'm just going to crease the fold on it with my bone folder. I'm going to use this as my tester piece. I have a piece of black cardstock already cut up. So my card base front measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and my black layer measures 3 3/4 by 5. And then I want my little pattern paper piece just to have a slight black border around it. So I'm going to cut my pattern paper piece just 1/8 of an inch smaller than 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not, a math whiz at the eighths. If you have the Gina K Designs Master Layout die sets, you could always use your die to cut these out. I'm just going to use my trimmer. I'm going to wing it. I'm going to do the best that I can. And let's go ahead and start cutting these up. So I'm going to load my cardstock into my trimmer, and I'm going to just double check my measurements here. My black cardstock measures 3 3/4. So I'm going to slip my cardstock in and move it 1/8 of a notch less than 3 3/4. Just kind of move it down so I can get a better look here and so that you can see what I'm doing. So I just go to the 1/2 inch mark and I move it back just a bit, and that creates the layer that I need. So that's perfect. Now I just want to cut it the other way across the 5-inch side. So I'm going to line this up in my trimmer at 5 inches and then scoot it back 1/8 of an inch less than 5 inches. So I think that's going to be like 4 7/8, I think. All right, so then it's going to layer on there perfectly. And I'm really happy with that. I'm not too fussy. If it's not perfect, you know, it is what it is. It's a handmade card. I'm not looking to, you know, make $1 million and put Hallmark out of business, because that's really not the case. So I'm going to save these scraps of cardstock, and we're going to come back to those later. I'm going to show you what we're going to do to make sure we have the most minimal amount of waste as possible. So I'm going to run through all of these sheets of cardstock, and I'm going to cut them up the exact same way. Same measurements, same size, and we'll come back together when those are all cut up. Okay, so the next step, we're going to pull in the black cardstock and the Gina K Master Layouts dies. And I want to take the 2 largest circle dies. One circle has stitching on it, and one circle is a layer. So I just want to make sure that the circle stitch die fits over my sentiments, and that looks good. So I'm going to cut out the larger circle out of black cardstock, out of the center of the black cardstock, and then I'm going to cut out the stitch circle out of this white cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off screen, and we'll be right back. Okay, so here are my panels with my circles cut out from the black cardstock, and then all of my white cardstock panels that have the stitching on it, and we're going to use the white to stamp our sentiment. The next step is to adhere our pattern paper to our black cardstock. So I'm just going to use tape runner for that, and I'll apply adhesive to the outer edge of my cardstock, and then line it up as best as I can in the center of the black cardstock, and I do that for all 6 designs 24 times, and then we end up with this stack of card panels ready to go on our card bases. The next step is to crease all of my card bases. I'm going to take my bone folder and crease all of the scored lines on my cardstock. And I'll just take my time to train my paper, make sure it's lined up nicely, crease the folds, and then we're going to start adhering these panels to my card bases. Now I just take all of my card bases and make sure that they're all lined up the same way, so that when I pick one up, I don't have to worry about it being upside down and adhering the panels the wrong way. So I just want to take care to make sure that that's all nice and straight, and get these stacked up so that I can work in an assembly line fashion. So I'm going to go ahead and start adhering my panels to my card base. So I'll just apply my same tape runner to that, pop that onto the center of my card base, and I'm happy with the way this is coming along. So I do this 24 times for all of my card panels, and then we've got this big stack of cards ready to go. So here are my portrait style cards and my landscape style cards. So the next thing we're going to do is pull in the MISTI, and we're going to stamp our sentiments on the white circle. Now in order to do this, I want to create, again, an assembly line fashion. I'm taking the negative die cut pieces from when I cut these circles out, and I'm just going to chop them up, and I'm going to create like a really weird web inside of my MISTI, and I want to put some little bits of adhesive behind the circle so that it's kind of exposed, and when I put the die cuts down inside of it, it'll kind of stick to it, and then it'll just kind of stay in place while we stamp it, and then this will all make sense in a second. So I've got 3 circles lined up for my 3 different sentiments with a little bit of adhesive on the inside. So I'm going to pop those circles in and attach them to the adhesive, and then I'll be able to stamp 3 sentiments at a time. So I'm going to grab my sentiments from my stamp set, and I'm grabbing the 3 sentiments, time to celebrate, break out the cake, and happy birthday to you. And I'll just get these lined up inside of my MISTI, right over top of the circles, exactly where I want them. And once I'm happy with the position here, I'm going to close the door of the MISTI and pick up my stamps. And then I'm going to use some Memento Tuxedo black ink for this. And I'm going to ink up my stamps very well, making sure that I get good dark coverage. And I'll probably stamp these a couple of times. So I stamped them twice. I'm only going to show you once because you get the idea. I'm going to ink up the stamp, and then I'm going to close the door of the MISTI and press, giving a second for the ink to transfer. And then we have all 3 sentiments stamped and ready to go, and I'll just use something sharp just to lift underneath my circle and pop them out. And then once that's done, I'll grab some new die cut pieces, put them inside of the openings, and then restamp. And I'll continue doing this until all of my circles have sentiments on them. And then once this is done, here we go. We have this big pile of sentiments that are ready to be adhered to the black circle. So I'm going to do that. Now I'm just going to use liquid adhesive for this one because I want a chance to sort of wiggle it around a bit to make sure that it's centered inside of this little medallion and it looks good. I put a little bit of adhesive on the back of these sentiments and glue them down, and then I set an acrylic block on top of them just to help to make sure that I get a little bit of pressure around the edges and everything adheres down nicely. And then once that's all done, all of our sentiments will be ready to go onto our card. While those sentiments are drying, I'm just going to take some of these loose leftover strips that I have from cutting my panels, and I'm going to tape these down inside of the card. So then the inside of the card coordinates with the front, and then we don't have any waste and it kind of looks neat. So I'm going to go through all of the patterns and match up all of the cards with their perspective pattern paper pieces, and I'll just apply a little bit of adhesive, pop these little pieces down inside of the card base, and I'm going to do that for all of them. And for the landscape style ones, I will trim up some of the bigger pieces to create a little strip to go inside, and I'll just continue running through trying to use all the small scraps without having to cut into those bigger pieces. And then once that's done, we have an entire batch of cards that have a little tiny strip of pattern paper that carry through the inside of the card, and then everything coordinates together nicely and it looks beautiful. So the last step to complete these birthday cards is to take our medallion and glue it down to the front of the card base. So again, I'm using my same dot adhesive for this, and I'm just picking random spots on the cards and just picking up random sentiments. I have 3 different sentiments here, and I'll just pop them down on the cards and move the placement around, you know, just kind of see what I think looks good and just get an idea of how these little sentiments will look on different sections of the card bases. And then I'm going to run through and do that for all 24 of my cards. So I have 24 cards and I have 24 sentiments. And I like them to be different. I don't want them to be all identical. I'll kind of move things around and make them a little bit different. And I have a little bit of fun with this. And then here we go. We've got 6 different pattern paper backgrounds and a bunch of sentiments, and each one is different. I didn't make any of them the same. I tried to switch it up as best as I could to get a variety of cards. All right, so what's left here is this basket of scraps. So I have one more idea to create the finishing touch to this card set. So I'm going to take these pattern paper scraps that are left over, and I'm going to glue little strips onto the envelope. So I'll run through and I'll try to create a little strip on each envelope, just trying to coordinate the envelope with the card. And I think that's just a fun finishing touch. So I did that for all of my cards. So now we have a card, and the inside of the card as well as the envelope all coordinate together with that pattern paper. And I think that's just a super cute, neat finishing touch. All right, so that part of the project is complete. And now I have a bonus project to use up every last little scrap of this cardstock, because I don't want anything to go to waste here, and if I put these pieces in a drawer, they'll probably never see the light of day ever again. So I just want to use them up and finish off my project with these cute little ideas for a little bonus to go along with your card. So the first thing I'm going to make is just a little mini card. I'm just going to score a strip in half. This is a 6-inch strip. I'm going to score it in half at 3 inches. And then this will create a cute little mini note card that you could tape down to a present, or, you know, leave a little note inside of it. Super cute idea. Okay, so that's pretty simple. The next idea I have is to make some large sort of tag style little things. So I've got one of these strips, and I have a long strip of the same pattern paper left, and I want to create like a little loopy handle that I can, you know, just use to slip into the present bag or something. So I'm just going to punch a hole in this little strip and in the large piece of paper, and then I'm going to take an eyelet and use my crocodile to seal this eyelet into this little piece. So it'll create a little bit of strength, and it's just something extra cute that you can slip into a bag or even into a journal or something. So I'm just going to round the corners on these to make it look pretty. And that's it. Super cute. Nothing, spectacular about it, but I think it's a fun little piece that'll coordinate nicely with your card. Okay, so I made a couple of those. And the next thing I'm going to do is make some tags. So I'm going to take a strip of pattern paper here, and I'm going to cut it down to 4 inches. So I'm going to do that twice. I'm going to cut 2 sheets at 4 inches, and then, I'm going to take the little tiny piece, I'm going to score it in half at like 1 1/8 or something like that, and I'm going to fold it and create this little tiny itty bitty baby card. You can use this for embellishments or little tiny notes in your kid's lunch or something like that. And okay, so now I'm going to work on the tag aspect. I'll take these 2 pieces of paper, I'll stack them on top of each other, and I'll cut off one of the corners. And then I'll flip one piece of paper over on top of the other, and then that will create a guide that we'll follow to trim off the corners to create symmetrical, even-looking tags. And then you can go ahead and use one of these tags to create more, as this will be a guide to make sure that they're all even and spaced the same. All right, I'm going to punch a hole in that, and then that's it for that. So we have these little tiny baby cards. We've got some tags. We've got some large tag style bookmark thingies, and super cute little accents and little extra pieces that you can add to tie your gifts together, or just some extra fun so the paper doesn't go to waste. So after that entire pack of pattern paper, this is all that's left, and I'm okay with throwing this out. There's barely anything here. I was really happy that I used the entire pattern paper pack. I got 24 cards, 5 large tags, 5 small tags, and 9 little mini baby cards. Super cute. All right, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I hope that you found some inspiration here today and get to chopping up some of your pattern paper. Coming up on screen is a playlist to my Chop It Up series where you'll find a ton of ideas to chop up your pattern paper. So thanks so much for joining me. Have yourself a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!